Radio Lomax, l'émission du 106.
À l'origine du renouveau de la folk telle appréhende aujourd'hui, faite de débrouilles, de boucles de sampleurs et de volonté de brouiller le classicisme du genre, il y a entre autres Joseph Arthur. Repéré par les deux célèbres comiques troupiers, Laurie et Peter Gabriel, dès 1996, sa carrière connaît autant de chaos que de moments de grâce. Un parcours qui ressemble fortement à celui d'une caisse à savon lancée à 200 à l'heure sur un circuit de Formule 1. Il y aura forcément de la casse dans les virages, mais l'avantage, c'est que le savon peut continuer à glisser vers l'arrivée, pendant que les turbomoteurs des concurrents, eux, surchauffent et explosent. Roule!
Lomax, l'émission du 106.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Okay.
Thanks for the coffee.
Oh.
It's needed today. We traveled very far to get here. Woke up at 5 in the morning.
Montauban, quoi.
One of those brutal road situations. But we got here, so I'm proud.
Okay, speaking of the road, it's been like 6 years since your last comeback world.
Right.
And you had 8 years go before playing in Europe again. Like last time in Europe was last year, if I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know you moved from New York to Arizona, but what happened in between? All those years.
That's a good question. A lot of like personal struggle, honestly. If I'm to be honest, I went through like some very personal struggle stuff pre-COVID, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I had like a sort of a few years that were pretty rough leading into that. Mm-hmm. And then that didn't really get any easier for me, that era either. So it's been an interesting trial, which I feel like has been a kind of decimation. The way I sort of qualify it in my mind is kind of a decimation of the ego and then a rebuild of like a sort of period of individuation, sort of the ego being picked apart and sort of ravaged a little bit, and then kind of finding more presence and peace. Mm-hmm. Plus, the biggest thing that happened during that time is I had a child.
Sure.
So I have a 4-year-old daughter, and so it's been a lot, you know. I don't know why I fell off from touring in Europe and in France for so long before COVID, because I had not been here in quite a while. I think things just kind of quieted down here, and I don't know, maybe it just sort of ran its initial course, which was 25 years or something of touring here, 20 years, a long history. And I basically became a broadcaster during that time of stepping away from music. And then Amélie Chopinez just said, why don't you come play in Paris? And I'm like, look, if you can book me a few shows in France and make it sort of make sense financially, meaning I don't come out of pocket, basically, like, I'll come play, like, let's do it. And I think this is our 6th tour now. She booked, and we've been doing like month-long runs. And right away in Paris, there was an audience for me. A lot of the older fans came through, and it was already like a lot of real enthusiasm. And it felt incredible. I was like, wow, okay, there's still sort of soil here to plant a new garden, essentially. And then in that time now, I've gotten a new distribution sort of / record deal, and I'm preparing to put out a series of solo records starting at the beginning of the new year. And I have a collaborative record with Peter Buck that's on its way out in the next couple months.
Okay.
The first 2 singles of which are already out. But yeah, it was a trying time. I think it was a trying time for all of humanity, essentially, if we talk about the COVID era. Sure. But I had a trial before that, and then that was a trial, And I think those things, of course, you wouldn't volunteer yourself to go through stuff like that, but I think it was a good reset for me.
Okay.
Because when you have a career in music for as long as I did, it messes with your ego, I think. It kind of like messes with your perspective of life in a way where perhaps you're not the healthiest you could be. And I think like life or God or however you want to qualify it sets it up to where it's going to throw corrective measures your way, and they're probably going to not feel that great. You know what I mean? It's like getting punished by the ultimate parent, but I find myself in a place now that's I would say pretty good. It's hard to qualify your own state necessarily, and none of us know what the next hour will bring. But I feel more at peace, I would say, than probably any other time in my adult life in general.
Okay. You were talking about broadcasting.
Yeah.
So I'd like to get to Come to Where I'm From. Which, by the way, it's the first time I ever heard this album. Yeah,
right.
Back then, and which is the name of one of your casts.
Yeah,
obviously.
That's right.
I'm saying it to the viewers. Hello, viewers.
Yeah, come to where I'm from.
And it was basically an invitation, extended to your fellow musicians to discuss their own strategies and own lives. And I recognize many punk rock musicians, like guys from Agnostic Front, sometimes John Joseph, people like that. So, people I've been listening to since
you were a boy.
Yeah. So
John Joseph is a trip.
Yeah.
There's only one of him. I mean,
oh yeah. I can guess.
Interesting character for sure.
Did this experience interact with your way of writing music and songs from all the experience dispatched in front of you?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure of the answer. I mean, it must have influenced me. But at the same time, your process or my process of writing is one that's kind of deeply personal and sort of mysterious, because it's a sort of rendezvous with your subconscious.
Okay.
It's not really a mental construct. So I imagine in the course of all those podcasts, I probably learned some things and maybe tried some things, but essentially the thread of writing is you tapping into your subconscious and sort of letting it flow through, and the mind is kind of a fixer-upper after it has the unconscious material. So I don't know. In other words, it comes from the gut and then goes to the head. It doesn't come from the head and go to the gut. So I feel like what you're describing would be more coming from up here, but I would say that I'm sure it had some influence, but I couldn't qualify as to what that influence necessarily is specifically, because my process, I don't think so much has changed that much in terms of writing. I mean, I have my ways of doing it. Sometimes it's words first, sometimes it's music first, and always it's rooted in the subconscious. So always I'm just kind of the observer of it happening. I'm not driving the bus.
So you mean that you still stand by that quote by Hermann Hesse, saying that the best art comes from
necessity.
Yeah, necessity, absolutely. Can we expand on that a little bit?
Well, the way I perceive that quote is when you absolutely need something to sort of redeem yourself or your life, and you seek that redemption through the creative act, that's going to have a certain extra added punch or vitality. probably, because it's necessary. You know, you're in search of redemption. You know, your soul is in search of redemption, and the way it's choosing to get that is through the creative act and sort of connecting with your higher self or God, right? So you're not frivolously just making stuff out of a busybody mindset. You sort of, you need it. So it has this depth to it that's inherent in it. Like when I think of the songs of mine that have been sort of most embraced, if I think of In the Sun, for instance, that was directly written from a friend dying young from cancer, or Honey in the Moon was written from a really important relationship finding its end, you know, stuff like that. It just seems to have an extra thing to it. That being said, you can, write really good stuff just from a state of relative peace as well, and not this seeming necessity thing, you know. So I don't think it's a hardcore rule. Like I think, like when they talk about in The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield, I think is his name, he talks about a professional versus amateur, and a professional artist or writer doesn't wait for inspiration. He shows up to the job, or he or she shows up to the job every day, regardless of whether they're feeling inspired or not. And so I agree with that too, which would be the opposite of that quote in a way. But I think, like, as with life, with art, there's lots of contradictions. So I think both things can be true at the same time. Like, I do think the best things come from necessity. I also think, I believe in the sort of war of art philosophy that you just show up every day and you're likely to get really good stuff because you're showing up, even when you don't feel it's necessary.
Would that be related to the difference between art and technique? Like in Greek, the word techne means what you provide to build something. It's like artisan and artist,
Yeah.
That's the blurred line between the two.
Yeah.
You're in there?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, when you think of an artisan, you think of somebody who shows up every day and just does their craft.
Yeah, sure.
Regardless of like how they're feeling, or it's not really so, this like sort of coddling their personal feeling and experience. Ultimately I believe in that. But if you do have a situation in life where you're hanging on to your work or your art, almost like a life raft. Oh, yeah. There's something powerful with that. That's undeniable. That's true as well. Yeah. But I don't think you're not in a state of crisis all the time, nor would you want to be, nor should you be. And if you always are in a state of crisis, then that's no good either, because that's not sustainable. But for periods, that can be great, And back in the 90s, that was sort of the myth that everyone was rolling with, during like Nirvana and the sort of mythos of like the junkie who's like a genius who barely is trying and just hanging on by a thread, but somehow just making genius stuff. This used to be the sort of mythology of rock and roll, and by the time you were 27, it was over. But it's no more that way in our sort of current culture. It's massively changed. I mean, I don't even hear anyone speak like that anymore. Now we have sort of a grinder culture, like grind and morning routine, cold plunge, breath work, yoga, which I do that kind of stuff too, mantras, meditation. I mean, this stuff, like, I saw like a spoof about that on social media. It was kind of hysterical, people making fun of that whole mentality, and I saw myself in that. I'm like, yeah, I've fallen into that too. I've fallen into every trope there is,
There's worse,
Yeah. Hey, it's
sure.
life. We,
Sure. Okay, and to finish this interview, I like because we were just talking before the lights came on about kind of a rough leg, touring leg.
Yeah.
Together
Today.
And, yeah, and I was wondering if you could talk to young Joseph. What would you tell him in terms of career advice and perception of the world?
It's interesting because I would say be present and be grateful as your sort of alpha and omega of every situation.
Okay.
But that's difficult to do. Like I remember, like because all this kind of went away for me for a while, and now it's sort of coming back. When it came back a little bit, I was instantly super grateful for it all. And just like, oh my God, I'm playing music for people again. I mean, I didn't know if I ever would again, like, so of course there's an immense natural gratitude that comes with that. But I find myself, falling into some of those same sort of self-destructive mental habits, like when the road does get grueling, or when you're playing like, oh, should we be playing here or whatever, this, that, and the other thing, all those sort of things where a lack of gratitude might show up. It's interesting the way that some of those same bad mental habits do show up. I would say the difference between my younger self and my older self is similar mind activity happens. However, now when a negative mental construct is occurring, I recognize it immediately. There's an inner light that shines right on it. And it's the awareness that dissipates the darkness. It's a light of awareness which rectifies darkness. And I think my younger self believed in the darkness more and would be more unconscious about it and would let it run the show. Whereas now, if I find myself out of peace, it's like an alarm bell is going on, and I don't sort of lean into my right to have that mental attitude about things. It's not that it doesn't occur, it's just that now I'm aware of it, and I'm like, this is a sort of a dead end road. So it dissipates it. And it's really only awareness that you need to apply, I find. It's not like we can't control the thoughts in our mind. I mean, thoughts occur on their own. You don't make your thoughts. Thoughts happen to you. And if you have a sort of a Christian mentality about it, our battle is with principalities and not with flesh and blood. So I think that's a helpful frame, because you have sort of, there's a spiritual realm we're all living in all the time, and that's interacting with us. So if you have sort of negative, or you could say demonic thoughts, then all your job is to be aware of them, shine the light of awareness on them, and they can't really exist anymore. They sort of dissipate on their own accord. So I would tell young me to meditate. I mean, to make fun of the morning routine stuff, but I would say be conscious, be present, be grateful, and shine the light of awareness on your mind, and don't believe your own mind. That's, don't take your own mental sort of chatter as the gospel, because it's not. You don't know the source of some of your thoughts. I mean, if you think about it, being present is the absence of thoughts. If you're in thoughts, you're either in the past or the future. That's where thoughts always are. So our sort of duty is to become present and in every moment, and that's a kind of thoughtless presence. And that's the area you want to be in it when on stage as well. You want to be present, and you want to work to give to the audience, not get something from the audience, but to give that light to the audience. That's the job.
Wow. Thank you. It's very zen, very correct. Jack Kerouac.
It's funny you say that
Yeah.
because somebody gave me On the Road on this tour for a present.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not about always being good, but knowing why you're being good in the first place. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, we're not always good. Let's face it, like we're humans. I mean, we're a mixed bag at the very best of ourselves. We're a mixed bag, and so if you're not trying to defend negativity within or drama or any of that, but you're rather seeing it as stumbling blocks that you need to sort of just shine the light of awareness on, it becomes much easier to be present and to be grateful.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time, for your kindness and your awareness.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I'll take that. I'll accept that. Appreciate you.
See you on stage.
See you on stage.